And I'm very happy that I'm actually talking after Lana, because a lot of what I plan to say today is related to what she shared today. And we've already seen the definition of EVP, so I wouldn't define it one more time. But whenever I just tell it to someone who is not in HR or who does not do employer branding, I just always tell them that this is something that your organization and company and its culture offers to the employees in return for their skills and experience and talent. And actually, Personio is one of our competitors, or actually we are their competitors, and I was very happy that I saw their life cycle methodology in the presentation, because that's how we think as well. And when we talk about EVP, I think organizations and you guys who are working on employer branding, you are super good at communicating outside of the organization. And you're very comfortable with using digital solutions, and you pay attention to the changed needs of the content consumers. So I think all of us, we love to watch super short videos. We talk to chatbots in our personal lives, and when we apply for jobs, I think even among us, there might be some corporate influencers. We see a lot of people who love to communicate on social media professionally as well. So I think a lot of managers or leaders are very comfortable with sharing their experiences and building their own personal brand. And we see a lot more of the SMEs communicating, I think, which is a very, very good thing to add to your company's brand. But on the other hand, we actually met a lot of cases when the companies forget about these things inside. So you are great at communicating outside, you're using all of these digital solutions and creating great content, and then nothing happens in the company. Or even if something happens, it's the old school things. So you put out posters on the wall, especially if we're talking about a company with a lot of blue-collar workers, because that's what they're used to. They go to the break room, they see some posters, or they have some kiosks where they can read some newsletters or see some information. Or I even see, even with the organization where most of the people are in the offices, I go to the restrooms when I go for a client meeting, and I see some posters about the month's achievement. So this is a very interesting way to share information, but I think that's what we see in many cases. I think one of the favorite things that my favorite things about new content is podcasts. A lot of times I do something else around the household, and I just put on a podcast, and that's how I learn. So it became a new way for digital education and also for employer branding, because I think a lot of leaders and managers, they get invited to give interviews or speak to the people in these ways. And we forget to use these tools inside the organization. And when you think about the employee life cycle, when your employee is still not in your organization or haven't onboarded yet, then you're talking to them all the time, you're getting them to sign the contract, to join, and then when they're in the organization, maybe you put more effort on their onboarding because you know that it's super important the first 3 months, because you would want this talent to stay and be engaged. And then when your employees already in the organization, the first experience they get is meeting the people or meeting technology and learning the new processes or the way they need to work. And also, I think if you think about your own experience with digital tools, then some of us have a struggle communicating with our own colleagues, because especially in the past 2 years, we got used to the fact that I don't need to sit in front of my computer all day. I can just go run out to the grocery store because I need to cook lunch, and people are not constantly at their desk anymore. Also, because of, I think, the personal freedom through having to use Google for everything, we are used to the fact that we can find out any information that we need at the presence. But sometimes at our work, it's super hard, because even though we have a great folder system, sometimes I don't understand how my colleagues think and what is their idea behind putting documents in different spots. So I cannot find the right information at the exact time when I need it. And then digital education. This is, I think, an emerging topic as well, and most of you must have some kind of digital solution. But it's great to not just subscribe to external things, but also transfer your current education system onto digital platforms to give your managers or people leaders some time to connect personally, on a personal level, with the newcomers, instead of having them spend time on just talk about the company history or talking about policies, because sometimes it feels like a waste of time. And when you get the chance to actually get to know a new joiner and tell them stories about your own experience, then it supports the fact that you will be able to connect with them in a more deeper level, rather than just doing what you have to tell them. And then administration. Raise your hand if you have difficulties with any administrative things at your work. Should it be like time recording or any financial stuff, signing contracts? That's the worst thing that I do every day. So I think one of the things that our partners say is that if you can cut time on spending, what you're spending on administration, then you can actually spend that time on building a community or interacting with your colleagues and clients. And I think this is the part that most of us enjoy in our work, and not filling out forms and signing things. And then the last thing, I think, is we call it motivation. Sometimes you call it engagement. But it really means that if your EVP meets EX, so whatever you're propositioning to the employee and the person in the company experience is the same, then you will end up with an engaged workforce, or with a workforce that can actually connect to your purpose, who feels motivated every day to do whatever needs to be done and be happy at the same time. So I think in the past 4 years, we've got a lot of feedback that for all these, what I previously mentioned, a lot of the organizations have their different digital tools. But when it comes to actually getting things done in an efficient way, it makes sense to integrate things. So we believe that the future is with one integrated platform where you can take care of everything. So you don't need to use 10 different tools every day to do your time recording, to chat with your colleagues, to find the right document that you need for your work, and actually have some gamified activities when you can have fun. And with the changed content consumption, we realized that it is hard to reach everybody on the right channels with the right content. So this future platform needs to be something that's giving you the option to personalize these things. So in case you're a person who sits at the office, or you have a laptop in your lap all the time, then I think it might be interesting for you to get weekly or monthly newsletters. Or if you're somebody like me who travels quite often and would not want to open their laptop all the time, but have your phone with you, then it makes sense to have an employee app, and for me to get notification when something important comes up. And as for blue-collar workers or non-desk employees, we've seen that some of the things, when it comes to shared devices, they still work. So some people would love to walk up to a computer that's placed out in a factory or in a break room and just take care of some administrative things that they need to do. And some of the intranet solutions still works, but I think these are the things that are becoming old school in a way that we need more interactive platforms than this. And as I mentioned, in the past 4 years, we've been working with a lot of companies, and we've have experience with more than 110 organizations. So we created a communication model. We can call this a communication model. And Lana already mentioned that it does not make sense for you to manage everything on your own. So we learned that it does make sense to involve other people when it comes to internal communication as well, especially managers and ambassadors. And what we've seen that 30% of the communications that you would do internally usually need to come from the managers because it is authentic. People love stories and storytelling. And if it's an honest thing, then people connect personally. And then the rest of the 70% obviously will come from a team of HR professionals or marketing or anybody who is responsible for internal communications. This is a model that we created based on these 110 projects, and we would love to talk about it, how it works in your own organization. Maybe because you do some of the stuff that's on here, maybe you don't yet, but I'm very interested in where you are. And the last thing I would like to talk about is actually some practical examples of our clients, what they did so far, and to share some very simple digital solutions that can be done on these kind of people platforms, because I believe that you might have some on your own as well. One thing that I even done in my own personal onboarding is an onboarding challenge. So you give 20 things for the new joiner to do in the first 3 months, and then they need to prove it that they actually have done it. And these are super easy things. So for example, have a coffee with the head of marketing, or take a picture in the logistics centers. So super easy things, but I think the purpose that it serves, that people actually meet and connect, and you interact with functions that you would not normally interact with. And we also have a web shop function, because if you've done some of the challenges, you get points or scores for it, and you can redeem these points in a web shop. In the web shop, the companies usually put either branded gifts that are useful and not the useless stuff, because we don't want to give away, I don't know, 10 plastic cups that nobody will ever use. But for example, like wellness coupon or something that employees appreciate is something that makes sense. The next one is recognition. And I think a lot of companies say that they would like to work on their feedback culture. And I think I've talked to some of you who have been trainers in companies, and I think this is something that you cover all the time. How do I give feedback? And we practice how to do that in person, but if you have a tool that's a recognition card and you can just send it with a very sweet message out of the blue, then you just put a smile on somebody's face at the end of the day. And this is how you can build a culture of recognition within your organization in a very easy way. One of our clients actually came up with this idea that every employee is able to send in a question, and the leadership answers it every single week with either a public post or a video message. Obviously, if it's something negative, then they need to be very diplomatic with the answers. But I think it's a great way to showcase that you're transparent in what you're doing as a leadership team, and you're willing to answer any questions. And it doesn't need to go through all the levels of the organization. It can go to you directly. The Q&A vlog It's similar to what I mentioned before, but it's towards your colleagues. So you can ask any kind of questions from any of the colleagues, and it's kind of like the ice bucket challenge that I call you out to answer the question, what is your favorite fish? Does anybody have a favorite fish? No, okay. But, and that's the thing, that you ask super random questions and then you find out information that you would never found out in any other way. And this is also a way of building communities and just getting to know people outside of work. And actually this client who came up with this idea, they have more than 100 videos like this, because this challenge became so popular that they put in very exciting questions. And then the last one that I would like to conclude this section with is my personal favorite, especially around the holidays. And since Body Shape already talked about the importance of sports and movement in the organization, this is something that I love. And I've seen the company who came up with this one actually getting the entire top management team involved in running. Because the main goal here was that you get the organization to move every day, or at least quite frequently, and they need to prove it with either screenshot on their mobile phones or a screenshot of their smartwatch, and they also get points similar to the onboarding challenge. But instead of getting personal gifts or experiences, they can donate their scores to an NGO. So you can pick a cause that feels close to your heart, and then you give your kilometers that you ran to this organization, and at the end of the year, depending on the amount of points, the company donates the amount of money to this organization. And the entire leadership team of this logistics company started running, and now they're in Hungary. Actually, there is this big running event, the Ultra Balaton, when they run around the lake. So they've done it at the end of the year, and everybody was so enthusiastic, and they actually managed to give quite a big amount of money to one of the children's organizations at the end of the year. So this one was the last practical example I wanted to show you. And with that, I close my presentation, and I believe that there is some time for questions.
Thank you, Timea. Questions?
Thank you, Timea, for the wonderful presentation. So I've noticed during one of the slides that the Blue Colibri app is integrated with Teams, with Slack, with all the technologies, which I think is a unique selling point. My question would be, when you're proposing this new product, this new technology, do you encounter apprehensiveness from those who are you are trying to sell this, basically, and how do you overcome this apprehensiveness? I lost my breath, sorry.
It's okay. Can you give me an example of what you mean by that?
So let's say that that you'd be interested in giving me the Blue Colibri app, and I'm like, well, I don't know. We've been using Teams and WhatsApp, and we have so many technologies available. Why would I use Blue Colibri? Okay,
so I think I haven't mentioned this, but we have up to 40 solutions within the application available, but the organization that starts using Blue Colibri doesn't have to use all the functionalities. You can keep whatever works for you, and then you can choose the ones that you're missing. And this is the way we integrate it. And we can pull in your digital solutions already within the app, so when you open it on your phone, you don't need to navigate out to another solution. Basically, obviously, if there is something that you feel that you need, and the Blue Colibri app can offer it to you, then that's when you will choose us instead of having 10 different kinds of solutions. And also, since I'm using it on a daily basis, it's so nice to just actually have to open one thing and not to have to download 10 applications and open another 2 on the desktop every day. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
So, wonderful presentation, excellent approach, and it has a huge potential going forward, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, my question would be, how long does it take to implement the solution in an average company? Let's say?
Okay, 2 to 8 weeks. Depends on the level of maturity of the organization, and it really depends on culture and the engagement. So if there is resistance within the organization, obviously it's going to be harder and it will take time. But for us to create the native app and because it can be branded to your needs, so the employees don't have to know that it's connected to Blue Colibri, it can be called anything you can imagine. But 2 to 8 weeks on the technical part, and then the communication and the implementation strategy comes, and it really depends on the organization.
So one more quick question. Thank you for answering the first one. So for instance, if I'm like a consulting company and I work with several types of clients, like big companies or corporation and smaller companies, would you be, I mean, is that something that I can just give to you as an introduction, or we can work out in a different way?
There are many options. We can talk about it later. There are some consultancies that have their own platform, and they invite their clients to their own platform, and there are some consultancies who tell or suggest the companies to create their own platform, and they help with content creation or communication strategy within the application. So me and my colleague Anna, we are just outside where you see all the blue ducks, so would be happy to answer all your questions if you have any more. One more. Okay.
Thank you for the nice presentation, Timea, and I would have a question for you. I'm wondering, what measures have you taken to protect the data of the employees who are using this application?
We actually just hired a data protection officer, so but we have all the required measures, because out of these 110 organizations, we already have global clients, so it's super important. Obviously, we do work with personal data, because you need to fill out some personal information for the users, because that's how you can target your messages. The more information you have about them, the more targeted communication you can do. So everything that's required from legal side is covered. It is a cloud-based solution. So some industries, like the banking industry, sometimes they have difficulties with accepting this, but for example, we work with Raiffeisen without any difficulties.
And regarding your answers, is the application integrated with Okta? And have you implemented the application in cybersecurity companies?
I'm not sure about that, but I can find out and I will tell you the information.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, then thank you so much.
Thank you.